Next up we have Peter Bowler from Carnaby Resources. He is the non-executive chairman. Mr. Peter Bowler is an experienced mining executive, having previously been the founding managing director of Bedell Resources and prior to that, founding managing director of Agincourt Resources. He is now the founding non-executive chairman of Carnaby Resources, which due to ongoing exploration success in the Mount Isa region, is pursuing the rapid development of the Greater Duchess Copper Gold Project. Thank you, Peter.
Good on you, Cameron. Thanks very much for that. Well, welcome everybody, and just before we start, I would like to genuinely thank Sharon and Miles for continuing to have faith in our little team from Carnaby Resources, and thanks very much for the speaking spot. It's much appreciated. So I think the theme of today, unlike Tony, that's got obviously a lot bigger company, ours is our theme. My recurring theme through this is clean, fresh, and new. Clean copper con, everything's clean, the whole deposit's brand new, and we're fresh, we're small, and we're nimble. So there it is there. We've got very few shares on issue still. We've only got 220 million shares on issue, and we actually pride ourselves on that. Everything's got to be tight to minimise dilution to shareholders. Share price is something which we're not proud of at all. And but it is what it is, and the market usually gets it about right at the stage you are at the moment. We are in between scoping and a feasibility study, and there's always this sort of hesitation about how good is it going to be between scoping and feasibility, and we understand all that, and we've got cash in the bank, and there is not going to be any more dilution for shareholders until they know exactly what's going on. Market cap of $90 million. I think you'll find as we go through it, it's a fairly compelling story. The board and management, which I'm part of, we own nearly 10%. This team has come, as Cameron alluded to, right through from Agincourt Resources to Bedell and now to Carnaby, A, B, C. We'll move on. And we are very well supported, and we do appreciate that for a little company like us that's now in a development stage. But keep in mind, we're only explorers only a year ago to have Eurois, Macquarie's, Petra, and just recently Moelis to join us as analysts. We do very much appreciate that. So the copper, I won't talk about this. I mean, it's up to you blokes to make up your mind about copper and what you think about it all, but it has been the perennial disappointer, just like uranium was when I had a uranium company 15, 20 years ago as far as price. I mean, all the forecasts are saying there's going to be, a supply shortage, but I will leave that to the experts. But needless to say, in the Australian copper space, now that Oz Minerals is gone, and now MAC is gone. MAC was the ones that bought out Cobar. They're sort of falling like ninepins, and there is a case for this Mount Isa, has to be, for consolidation of the district. As far as Glencore goes, we've got a very, very tight relationship with Glencore, and rest assured we will be mining ore by this time next year, and it will be going up to Mount Isa and to be processed, and we've got a toll treating arrangement with Glencore, and if for whatever reason it doesn't go to thing, it's up to Glencore to find another home for the processing. Because as you all know in this room, Glencore are interested in one thing, and that's con. And they're particularly interested in our con because it's clean. It's one of the cleanest cons you can get. And anyone in the world, whether it be Trafigura or Glencore, are yearning for good, clean coal in a jurisdiction that's tier one. So, we think once we start producing this time next year, we have to get a re-rate because that's just the way it is. And everybody knows, unless you, which is fair, unless you're turning a positive cash flow, you're not going to get the attention which management always thinks that they deserve. So the Greater Duchess, this is where we are. Now, this is an important slide. We're only 70 k's south of Mount Isa. It's a great jurisdiction. We've headquartered at the Duchess Pub. The Duchess Pub, if there's any grey nomads there, you really need to call in the Duchess Pub on your way around Australia. It's this idyllic situation with these big breakaways in the background. It was built in the First World War to big copper mine there by the British to provide armaments, to provide copper for the armaments to beat the Jerry's. So we've come from nowhere to having now 400,000 tonne of high quality copper equivalent in our resources, and it is just the beginning. And you'll see why. We'll go through it very quickly. But our really breakthrough, there's been quite a few breakthroughs in the last 6 to 12 months, and the biggest one was buying the Trecolano, semi-developed, because Barrick had to stop mining it in 2009 because they ran out of mining lease space. And if you know how the Queensland government works with mining approvals, it is proper slow. So they had to cease things, but that's all been resolved, and now you'll see when we start mining Trecolano, which will be definitely our first project off the thing, we go straight into some really, really nice ore from a very, very quick cutback. And the reason is, Tony, everyone talks about what their advantage is, and I'll tell you what ours is the competency of the rock. So when it's underground, it's all about minimising dilution. With open pit, it's all about the actual competency of the walls. And unlike, because I've, as you all know, I've mined from here up to Wiluna, and I know what this green belt's like as far as open cuts. Queensland is different. We're going to have vertical walls with a bench similar to Sunrise Dam. That's one of the steepest pits I've ever seen. So it was very rare, and we're very fortunate. But it's fortune's the brave and the blokes that are prepared to back themselves. So we really worked on Trecolano. We knew that would give us that 20,000 ounces a year, reliable copper production with clean con, which was what everybody wants. And it is on a granted mining lease, so there's no need, like the other deposits we've got, to have brand new mining leases or move them around, because this is already done, ready to go. And the Queensland government is obviously really, really supportive to try and get some ore up to Mount Isa to help out the whole Glencore Queensland government story. And obviously the open cut now, because before Trecolano, we only had 2.5 years of open cut into underground. I don't like underground mining. I think there's a lot of people in this room that are always wary of underground mining. But now Trecolano is just a no-brainer open cut, so we'll have over 20,000 tonne a year of copper for the first 5 or 6 years of open cut. No capex, no capex. This is the important thing. So the Trecolano opposition, and I think rather than point to it, if you look at that blue ML900183 on the right-hand side there in that photo, that's exactly what I'm talking about. That's the reason why this is going to add a lot of NPV onto the story, just because of that one slither of dirt that Barrick couldn't mine when they shut up in 2009. So it's 5.2 million tonne at this stage at 1.6% copper. 1% copper equivalent for 85,000 tonne, but it's the ease of the mining and the lack of controversy. Clean, fresh and new. That's what this is all about. And this is exactly what I'm talking about, and you blokes will appreciate this. At the bottom of the pit, cherry ripe, ready to go, is at 93 metres at 3.3, 93 metres at 6.2. All of that will come out in the pit. And it's got a lot of gold in it as well. And obviously everyone wants to talk about gold, but this is a copper story. Those intersections at the bottom of a pit ready to go, and you think, oh yeah, but how much is your strip ratio? Well, it's going to be high strip ratio because the grades are so high, but the walls are going to be so steep. That's our competitive advantage. 93 metres at 3.3, as I said, 128 at 2. They are quite spectacular in the copper space. And you can see, if you look at the old pit outline in the right-hand diagram, you can just see how, and I know the eye, a steep pit always looks quite not steep when you look at it in a cross-section, but even that pit looks steep, the old pit. And that scoping study one, don't worry about that, that's just an outline for our scoping study. We are now have got all the geotech work done. It's going to be steeper than that, which means less waste, more ore. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. So there you go. So that tells a picture tells 1,000 words. That's the inheritance pit that was finished by Barrick in 2009. You can see the pit on the right hand, the wall on the right hand side. That had to stop because they ran out of real estate on the right hand side. And you can see when it's disappearing into the water, it is almost vertical. So, and then just to the north, I mean, this is obviously, as a non-geo, this is the thing that got me most excited. So this was an old First World War underground. Obviously, there was all shafts and underground prior to the dump trucks coming in the 80s or the 60s. But have a look at those at the bottom of the underground on the historic underground mine. You've got 8 metres at 13, 8 at 4, 17 at 8, 15 at 5, so it goes on. Never been drilled underneath, ever been drilled. New, fresh and clean. Mount Hope. I mean, Mount Hope is an extraordinary story. This was, once again, you know, the reason we are going to be successful is because everything we bought here have accumulated has been really tough. The people we've dealt with have been tough, firm, but maybe not so fair. But it's all coming together now. We own 100% of everything I talk about. As from this week, there was joint venture partners on our country to the south. We're all 100% now. Mount Hope, 100%. And so this was obviously Rob Watkins, and I do apologise for me speaking rather than Rob, our managing director, that's doing an excellent job. But he's been had to stay in Perth because he's got a family illness happening. So, you know, apologies for you having to endure me up here. But this was the one that Rob was most keen on. I mean, it's turned into nothing, zero drilling ever in the history of mankind, to 173,000 tonne of copper at 1.7% copper equivalent. Quite a spectacular result for Rob and his small geological team. And when I say Carnaby small, I mean really small. There's only 6 of us, and this is what we've done in a very short period of time. And you can see how old these deposits are by the names, can't you? There's no way anyone would be allowed to call 2 deposits Lady Fanny and Burke and Wills. I mean, these were obviously old prospectors, you know, in the 1930s or whatever. Burke and Wills, I mean, I'm a bit of a history buff with stations to the south, and I'm intrigued because this is one of the places where Burke and Wills camped on their way up to the Gulf. They ultimately died on their way back, but to just put that to one side. So, it is quite fascinating, isn't it, that in 1865 they actually camped where this deposit is. Burke and Wills deposit, very small, very discreet, very profitable, really high grades, stripping ratio, bugger all. That's going to be one of the very first ones. And Lady Fanny as well, never a drill hole in it, no recorded drilling prior to Carnaby. And, you know, now we've got some really profitable 2 open pits there. Clean, fresh and new. Neil Desperadum, this was our discovery. You know, I was into gold and we had deposits north of Hemi, and I didn't like copper, and I voted in the board meeting not to do any copper exploration. So that's how much I know about it. But this was at 41 metres at 4%. We went up to $1.50 or 60 on that. I mean, that's good. That's once again, that's a very high grade deposit, but small, and it's open at depth. But that's an underground proposition more than anything, so we won't get... All we're interested in is margins. I think there's been a lot of talk about margins, and that's what we're into. So project development, I better hurry up now. So the pre-feasibility study is in progress, and you know, you blokes don't need to worry about the word pre, because we're such a small group of people. We will go from pre-phase, looks good, feasibility, yep, that's done, financial investment decision done. So we plan on producing the first ore out of Trecolano as close to June next year as we can, subject to only one thing, government approvals. And the government have promised us that they're going to approve it very, very quickly. And as you can see, this NPV of 437 is without Trecolano, 7% discount rate, IR 141%. Trecolano is going to give us 20,000 plus a year for the next 10 years, open cut for the first 5 years. We've got this is a very unique thing. We're going to rail the ore from the Duchess pub up to Mount Isa. Rail. Not many people have an iron ore or coal rail ore. It's obvious. You just got to use it. Huge amount of support from the Queensland government to make it happen. There's the Gantt chart. I won't go into it too much, but there it is there. You know, production. Obviously, Rob's a little bit more conservative than me. He's saying in the third quarter of next calendar year. I'm saying by the 30th of June. So investment highlights, fellas, in a very short time, we've got 400,000 tonne of some of the best copper in Australia at 1.5%. We've got binding tolling offtakes agreements with Glencore. You know, Glencore is who they are. They're one of the biggest commodity traders in the world. It's interesting, you know, we've got on with them very well because we've got something which they really, really like, which is clean, unencumbered con in a tier 1 country. 400,000 tonne, that's just the start. All of those ore bodies, especially Trecolano, completely open. And Rob is obviously, if he was here, he'd have a big section on exploration. I'm not an exploration GA. I'm just a busted ass cocky. So, but all I can say is that, you know, everybody that comes to our booth that is a GA is most excited by our exploration upside. Thank you very much.